Hey everybody, hope you're all doing great. What you're about to see right now was part of a Twitch stream archive where Ryan, Keith, and myself, we sat down for 2 whole hours and talked about almost everything from what is retro to what is not, to Keith almost panicking when somebody in chat mentioned that the PS4 could be maybe considered retro in a couple of years. We talked about the difficulty and the challenges of producing content in 2020, not even just tied to YouTube, but podcasting and all of that stuff, what kind of content we are consuming. It is a 2-hour conversation that it is impossible to summarize right now. So if you like this, if you enjoy this, please consider subscribing, going down to the comments section, and if you'd like us to work on another more laid-back edition, very comfortable, cozy edition of A Cast of the Past, even though it's not, but it kind of is, please let us know as well. You know, we always go back to like that we've known each other for 16 years and all of that, but I think like the fascinating thing we've never really talked about is like we have actually witnessed the evolution of social media and forums and all of that from basically its inception to the point that it was like impossible to find forums, right? Like I remember having a forum with 20 people was like, whoa, like 20 people with like a similar mindset. And I know like they span back to like the early 90s.
No.
Oh, no.
I wonder if they're still up.
It's like
nobody go there. If I remember the last time I saw it, like
No.
It would
things
be
happened
difficult
on
to find
Netflix.
anyway, so I'm not worried.
yeah, like everybody in chat and ties to what's going on, my
Hey,
friend.
What's up,
Open-
Wizard?
Yeah, like open question for everybody. It's like, what is your earliest recollection of like social media, whatever that is, right? Because it's like, you know, once we got like your Twitter, Facebook, you know, even before that MySpace, it was a lot more obvious to pinpoint like, hey, this is when I had like online interaction in a social way. But like for Ryan and Keith, like what was that for you?
You know
I
what I
mean,
remember?
Does
Well-
MSN Messenger count for that? Because it's kind of social interaction on the internet.
Actually, even that's a question. Like, you know, we talk about like
instant
AOL,
messaging.
ICQ.
Yeah.
Would that be considered differently? I guess it is because that was more based on adding somebody in particular. Whereas maybe like on Twitter, I can tweet and I can have a private account, but I mean, it is more widely accessible for other people, right? Like, what do you think,
One thing I
Ryan?
remember was, so like, yeah, it's a little bit different with the messenger because I figure social media is a little more like you have some sort of page, like some sort of, you know, like you have like a profile.
Like an
and I guess
accessible
AIM,
hub that people
yeah, I
can
guess
see.
AIM had its little like profile section, but I remember Cartoon Network had this thing where you could make a page, like you could get these special little like animated GIFs or whatever that you could make a little page and put them all together, and everyone had their own pages. And I just remember my cousin and I just wanted to get all the Dragon Ball Z ones and build like Dragon Ball Z pages. But this is before, I'm pretty sure it was
Oh,
before
man.
MySpace and all that. But it was like a big thing for Cartoon Network back then. They did all like the different characters and like the Toonami ones and stuff like that.
I mean,
So that
take
was
it
like
a
the
remember that.
first thing.
further
Yeah,
back.
I don't know if Neopets counts too.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, going with that, I guess my first exposure was Neopets in like grade
Yeah.
6, where everybody had their own little town. When I played, everybody wanted that damn T-Rex. I remember that being a big thing. So I guess that was kind of my first social media.
Yes, okay. Nicole definitely
was 10.
identified with Neopets. Ace writes, my first social account was for Dailymotion, which I mean, Dailymotion has always been like, it's always been this website that everybody, I don't think Dailymotion is anybody's main website, but everybody knows of it and uses it.
Dailymotion is my place to go if I want to watch obscure wrestling matches
Yeah,
from
I
New
was gonna
Japan.
say, prior to the network, that was my go-to for like NXT before the network was a thing.
Because there are no laws on Dailymotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's well known enough, but under the radar enough that it doesn't really, you don't
Yeah,
have
it's
people
kind of
after.
everybody's like, let it do its own thing. Googly or is it Gucci? Like, I want to make sure I get the nickname right because like that's the nickname that I always get confused. He writes MSN Messenger and AIM and Yahoo. I mean, between the three of us, like we've used all of them. Looking back now, which one would you say was your main one? Because like I don't even remember why. We would sometimes use all three, and I can't.
Yeah. Because you
Exactly.
had
Tell
some
you
friends
why.
who were like on MSN, you had
Mhm.
some who were on AIM. I think AIM was the one I used the most. Like the most people seemed to be on it. But the three of us used Yahoo because it had the best like multiple person voice chat functionality with like group rooms where
Yeah,
two people could actually talk at once.
it was like text chat was better on AIM, so you texted on AIM, but you voiced on Yahoo, and then
That's true.
MSN kind of fell off. And then remember those weird like emotes that Yahoo had, where it was like you could send people voice clips, but
Oh,
it was
oh
like
my goodness,
pre-canned
no.
voice clips and just spam the hell out of people with
Yeah.
it. I
I
won't
think I was
imitate
the one
one
that did
because they
that,
weren't
so
great,
can't
but
complain too much. Oh, that was so bad. By the
I
way,
miss the wastelands of early messenger social media.
yeah, because like it
Facebook
was
definitely killed AIM because I was still using AIM in like 2009, I want to say, but well, also text, like with everybody getting smartphones too, that probably killed it. But yeah, that 2009, which was like my sophomore year in college, is the last time I can remember regularly using AIM.
man. I forgot about like just when I first started using AIM because I think I just created accounts because people in school were using it, but I didn't really even understand how to actually use that. A couple of comments in chat. Nicole writes, Gaia Online was another one. I always heard of Gaia Online. I don't think I actually used it.
What is that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, Nicole, like if you could fill us in, because I don't
It
really
sounds
know.
like an MMO,
Yeah,
but I'm sure it's
and I
not.
think it is. Like if
Oh,
it's the one that I'm thinking of, it is.
if so, let's talk about Silk Road for 10 minutes here.
Yeah. Wow. But before that, because we got to talk about video games for a second with something that Keith actually did. Right now, there's actually an Extra Life marathon happening with different Extra Lifers in Puerto Rico. My wife, Nicole, who's in chat, she was actually streaming just this morning. Right now, we have
Is that
Cole
live
Taino.
footage right there?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's actually live
Fancy.
footage.
That is well done. Wow, you've
Thank
really
you, my
done
friend. See,
production
it's like
value.
I try.
I don't know. I'm in a weird place right now with platformers where I recently beat, like, when we did the Super Castlevania episode available in the archives at A Cast of the Past, I really enjoyed my time with it. So I went and played Donkey Kong Country. Really enjoyed that. Then when like there was that big E3 but not E3 Nintendo Switch sale that happened in the summer, I bought Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Country, and I'm not really enjoying my time as much as I thought I would with that. And it's mostly because of like, I realize and I think Banjo Kazooie is to blame for this, is that all of
Hold
like
up.
the platforming games after a certain point just became like collectathons. It's not just like, oh, get to point A to point B, and then here's a fun thing to do at the same time. It's like, oh, here's a level. You can collect 8 bananas, 4 puzzle pieces, a KONG. You can slap Diddy in the face and then jump off a bridge. Like, there's all these
Yeah.
different things you can do in the level, and I find it creates more anxiety for me because of that. So when I start thinking about like modern platformers, modern games like Ori, I almost get turned off because of it, because of the advances that they've had. So I like kind of like Ori,
He's
but I
just one
don't
of
know if
them
I
old
want to
gamers.
play
It's
it.
like, no,
I am.
just keep it old school. I already
I'm
have
just an
that.
old
did.
man.
I also just played through DKC again for like the millionth time.
Isn't that great?
It is great. 2 is definitely the best, but 1 is still great, and
Mhm.
I'm still like I'm nostalgic for all 3 of those games. And I definitely see your point. And playing Donkey Kong Country Returns, and I do have Tropical Freeze as well. I like Tropical Freeze better because it's on Wii U and I think Switch, where there's no stupid motion controls for
Yeah.
rolling. So thank
Mhm.
God for that. Yeah, it's just not as smooth. I don't know what it is. Like Donkey Kong Country, it's a pretty easy game, honestly, but there's something to be said that even though it's easy, it's still really fun to play. And that, I don't know, I just feel like it just, the other games like where you have to grab the vines and stuff, it's just like the extra buttons that kind of slow it down for me.
Mhm.
Whereas like if you're really good at DKC, you can just like truck through those levels super fast. And it just, I don't know, it's just like I said on the Castlevania episode, I was like, Donkey Kong, it just feels buttery smooth. Same with Mario. Like, just the game feel is top notch, and I don't think the newer ones capture that as much. It feels like it's a much more start and stop, and especially with Country Returns, the first like one that they brought back, it feels really cheap. Like, you kind of just die without warning, and you're like, hey, that doesn't seem fair. When you can look at the game design of like Donkey Kong Country, and when they introduce something new to you, they introduce it in a very like safe environment the first time you see it. Like, oh, if there's an alligator that jumps when you jump, the first one you're going to see is just kind of standing there doing nothing. So you like say, okay, I understand what this thing does. Or the first time you see like a rope swinging, you're not going to fall to your death if you fall off. Like, they safely introduce it. And that's
what makes a good platforming
in
level.
Country Returns, this bat just comes out of nowhere that's chasing you and just kills you, and you're just like, well, that sucked.
I think it's just like the overall simplicity of the games. And before we keep going with that, a huge shout out to Mighty JR. Thank you, my friend, for the 4-month resub. Nicole wrote up there, Gaia Online is an online hangout incorporating social networking, forums, gaming, in a virtual world. You had an anime-style avatar, and it was basically yeah, I think I used that. I think I can actually remember.
Do you remember a thing on the internet called Habbo Hotel? Is it like Habbo Hotel?
You lost me there, yeah.
I've heard of that, but I've not played it, but I think it's a similar thing.
Okay, Nicole, actually. So Nicole and Keith making some serious connections, because I ain't got a damn clue about what the hell that is.
It's weird. It was like it was a browser game, I think, or like chat room, where you had a little avatar, and then you were in a hotel, and then all of the different floors had themes, and then you had your little
Penguin
room.
One too. Is there?
Oh, Club Penguin. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, Keith was quite okay. Okay, I gotta ask this. Like, when did you become like antisocial, Keith? Because it's like you seem to be up to date with all the social media platforms from its very inception, Keith.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's like, here's like this is my happy place. Right now I am in a room. I am by myself.
You're technically in a box right now, just saying.
That's true. I'm in a boxed in this room. I'm an Alice in Chains song, but there's that, that distance here. Like right now, if I got frustrated, I could get up, I could walk away, and you would see me tomorrow when we record an episode.
Exactly.
But there's that layer between it, and that's what I loved about stuff like that, like about the AIM, the MSN Messenger. You don't have to be like a very social person to still make friends, and I think that's why I love you guys so much. You're like my friends without having to go out and make friends.
It's like so beautiful and sad at the same time.
We're friends that have an off button. It's true. If I don't want to talk to you, I can just make myself invisible and disappear.
Sometimes you see them in person and it's a little much, but if you game with them online, you're like, well, if they get annoying, I can just get off of Discord.
You can just shut off the person.
Go. Yeah.
Do you guys remember the first video game that you played? For me, the first game that I played, I didn't understand, is Legend of Zelda on the NES. Like, that's the first one that I know. I grabbed the controller, and I mean, I didn't understand. Nicole did respond with Paperboy and Mario Brothers 3. I think Mario Brothers 3 may be like that first real game that I began to understand, right? Like the objective of it. What about you guys? Like, not necessarily the first one that you played, but more so the first one that's like, oh, there's an objective. Oh, okay, I have to go right. That you kind of figured out what it was.
The first one I remember is Super Mario Brothers for the NES. Mm-hmm. I know.
When you say Mario Brothers, are you talking about like the
Super Mario Brothers? Not. I think that was just called Mario Brothers, right? Super Mario Brothers. Is the platformer. Yeah. So that's the one I remember. I think the NES was definitely the first home console in my house, and that's the first one that comes to memory. That, and there was the track and field game with like the pad.
Oh, did you have the 3-pack too?
I don't know if it was the 3-pack. I really don't remember. But was the other one Duck Hunt? Because
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't
that
have
must have
that.
been the one. But
Yes, because that
I had
was
a
my
couple different NESs
first.
because they would break all the time. So
That was my first game I played. It was like a 3-pack of Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and Track and Field, and we didn't have a light gun, and I didn't understand how Track and Field worked, so I basically used that thing to play Super Mario Brothers, and then early on, I don't know what it's called, but I have like early memories of like a Mickey Mouse math game that I played, and that's where that memory begins and ends. I
I
don't know
mean,
what
it's a
it's called.
memory.
I
Doesn't mean
don't
you have
even
to
know
know a
what it
lot of
looks
it.
like. I just remember Mickey Mouse was teaching me math, and that's it. So there was those, and then I got a Super Nintendo, and that's when things went ham for me. There was Super Mario World, Super Mario RPG. I have a lot of early memories of Clay Fighter. Clay Fighter is a great game.
Yeah. I lost my copy. I actually own that. Mighty GR writes, my first video game remembered was Super Mario World. And Tyson writes, I'm only in high school right now, and so it was probably something on on our family, we are older brothers PS2. And that's why, like, going back to the reason that, the three of us have been friends for a long time. We used to do a wrestling podcast, but, now we do something called a Cast of the Past. New episode available right now, actually. So if for whatever reason you want even more of us after this, there is. Ryan and I talk about like local multiplayer games. Had a lot of fun working on that episode. But it is like, yeah, retro is so mainstream now. Which I guess like let's open that question, right? It's like we started this podcast when I like to think it was definitely already in to be like a retro collector and all that. But now, especially even with the pandemic, right? The fact that a lot of people are staying home, it's become this just immense thing that I don't think you can call it a niche thing anymore. I think retro is kind of like a mainstream expectation of like, hey, even if you don't play these games, you buy them, and it's kind of what it is, right? What do you guys think about that?
There was this point in the early 2000s, I think it was, where somebody got the merchandise rights to Nintendo, and like Zelda, Mario memorabilia started popping up everywhere. Like that's some of my earliest realizations that like, hey, this retro thing is really cool. Or it started to become mainstream when you started to see like mushroom or like Super Mario mushroom candies at a convenience store, or hey, there's somebody walking around with a Triforce backpack. Like really that's when it started blowing up, and then the exact same thing happened with Minecraft, and even though that isn't really retro, it kind of escalated it a little bit and brought it to that same level that movies and stuff that have always been at, where now like when you would go to like a convention and buy yourself like a Back to the Future poster, oh well, now you could buy yourself a Super Mario Brothers cartridge at the same time. It really picked up around like the early 2000s, I think.
do you think it's gonna reach a point where Mario and Zelda merchandise is common enough that it's going to be the same thing? Like you'll see like 12-year-old kids walking around with a Nirvana
It
T-shirt, but
is.
they couldn't
I
name
wouldn't say
already
it
happening.
yeah,
it can be.
they
I would
couldn't
say
name
it
a
is.
single song by them. Like
Mm-hmm. Oh no,
I
Like
it's
mean,
just some
people gotta know
Italian guy on
Mario
the shirt.
though. People, and especially I think Mario Odyssey probably helps some of the younger generation know what the 8-bit Mario looks like,
Yeah,
right?
that
Because they have
that
those
kind of
sections.
gives it an
So
edge over something like there's never going to be another Nirvana song for obvious reasons. So, like you're not creating new things, but if Nintendo makes a new Mario game like 2 years from now, then that's going to be somebody's first Mario experience, right? So video games have that edge because they're digital properties that they can continue on, where Nirvana is always going to be the thing in the 90s that was great.
That's true. And a couple of different things in chat. Call me Skies. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Have you guys seen Wings of Redemption on the news? I have not. I don't know if you guys
I
have.
have not either.
So if you could fill us in, Ryan, what about you?
I looked it up once I saw it on the chat. I guess he is a like streamer who's, I guess there's some drama going on right now, but I don't
Drama
know
and
what
streamers? What?
Yeah, I
What?
do
No.
not know the
Ryan.
extent further than that.
Ace writes for me regarding the topic of retro. I knew about retro when I was playing SNES and N64 on a neighbor's house. And to what Ryan said, like, I remember as a kid, if somebody said they loved Legend of Zelda, I'd be like, oh my goodness, like, no way. Maybe like mid 2000s or early 2000s, I would still get kind of that reaction. But if I'm walking down the street now, or let's say in January, right before the world changed, and somebody said like, I love Legend of Zelda, my response now would be like, all right, I mean, cool.
Yeah, cool. You and everybody else.
Exactly. So I think that is kind of when you've normalized that, and I guess it's good, right? Like we're talking about this, and it may seem negative, but it also has a lot to do with just video games becoming a mainstream thing. I mean, dare I say, I think the pandemic, if anything, accentuated just how important video games are. Where right now, we have all these movies that's like, oh, are they going to go video on demand, or are they going to be delayed? A video game, Animal Crossing. Look at what happened. One of the best-selling games of all time already, like by this point, came out during the pandemic. I think it's shown that. So what's your take on that now? Like, are we okay with just like recognizing that retro and modern gaming in many ways, I would say, is just kind of like just you choose what you want. But I think it's gone far past, hey, I'm an old timer gamer, right? I used to play this back in the day. I've seen, especially with my channel, a lot of people that grew up with PS2 and PS3 going back and playing N64 games.
And I see there's a question, how old does something have to be, from Tyson, for it to be considered retro? I don't think there's a clear definition. I think it's somewhat subjective, but
yeah, it's less of a definition and more of a feeling, really.
Yeah, personally, I would set the line around 2 generations back of a system. So I would consider like the PS2, PS2, GameCube, Xbox One. I mean, Xbox original, Jesus.
Yeah, Ryan, get it right.
I would consider that era is probably retro gaming at this point.
Even then, that's still a tough pill to swallow. Like, I'm going to sit here and tell you that Grand Theft Auto Vice City is retro.
It is. It really is at this point, honestly.
It feels
it's 20
wrong.
years old.
It feels wrong.
When you look at that generation.
Okay? Yeah, 20 years. Seriously, if it's 20 years old, I mean, come on.
I think it's very difficult because I feel like this topic of, I'm curious to know like when the term retro came up. I honestly don't know, because I think that would actually help clarify, because I do think it's primarily based on like the 8-bit, 16-bit, and transition to 3D. That maybe that's when it started to go up, because there was a big divide. Even when we talked about Super Castlevania 4, you brought up, Ryan, that for modern gamers, more often than not, it's harder to play 2D games and vice versa, right? For people that grew up with 2D games, like not always the case, but would you guys say, like, generally speaking, that is where you kind of put like, hey, this was a thing. Then all of a sudden we got this technology, gave us access to 3D, and it genuinely changed how we played the games, like from perspective and mechanisms. Eventually we got HD and we got online. To me, retro, I love the PS2. I would have to agree that the PS2 is retro, as weird enough as it is for me to say, because I think the moment that you're like, hey, the PS3 and 360 towards like after the first year of the launch, it assumes you're playing online. And that to me is like a very modern take. I think the moment that video games started depending on you having some kind of online infrastructure to be able to be played, that to me is like 10 years can go by or 20 years can go by. I think we need to call that something else, because when you lump all of that up under retro, I think it does get very difficult. What do you guys?
I was also going to say that the PS3, Xbox 360, that generation is the one that started kind of the systems being more like a computer with a hard drive and those kind of features, where
you can install Linux on a PS3.
Yeah, we're still using, if we're talking PS2. Yeah, PS2, GameCube, you're using memory cards. I know the Xbox had a hard drive, so they were kind of ahead of the game there. But PS2, GameCube, you're still using memory cards, like things like that. So it's definitely it was very transformative to the next generation.
I think like just because I use this for everything in my life, I think if you want to like find a good description point for it, looking at wrestling is something that really helps like solve that in your head. Like the way that wrestling has all these different generations, like you have the Hulk Hogan era, you have the 90s, you have the Attitude Era, then you have the PG era. Like that type of idea happens in all media, including video games. And there's not really like a year where it all happens in once. It's kind of staggered. And that's what you have to look at with
it doesn't always get fully defined until you're a little bit further in the future too.
Exactly. Like you can look back and say like, okay, this is when the transition happened. Like this is when the hard change happened. Like the Attitude Era ended at WrestleMania 17. The always online era of video games really began in the PS3, Xbox 360. The 2D to 3D change happened between the Super Nintendo and the PS1. Even though there was some 2D stuff, it became extremely less prominent there. So I think you kind of got to look at it like that instead of being able to choose like this is the exact moment when something becomes retro, where you think about things where like whether it be from your childhood or how they relate to you in those eras. And once those things are gone or as like less prominent, now I think that's when it becomes quote unquote retro. I think in my opinion, the next one that we are looking at in that generational shift is games as a subscription. So with things like Game Pass and stuff coming, I think that might be the next generational shift where we started thinking less about full price games and more where can I find this on a service. So if I were to take a guess, that's going to be the next one. And then I guess that'll kind of push the always online thing into retro, at least from the PS3 era.
Wow, I'm in a bit of a pain reading the chat. Well, I'll explain why. First of all, we might gracias por the follow. Thank you for the follow, my friend. And by the way, remember that this is a special stream. Maybe we can do more stuff like this in the future. We will see what happens, right? But we just wanted to have like this really, really cool experience here. And Ace under Geek Bunny wrote, in my opinion, I used what La Case Retro used for them when they talk about retro games. A 10-year-old game is a retro game.
See, I can't accept that. I can't accept the fact that Mass Effect 2 is a
wait
retro game.
Wait it out, Keith.
No. I'm not ready
calm
for
down.
this. I'm not
down,
okay
Keith.
with this.
We talked about this, man. We talked about this, Keith. Breathe deeply, man.
No.
We're going to get to this. We're going to get to this,
Yeah,
man.
like I said, it's kind of subjective, and I think that's a fair bar to set. I think 10 years is pretty good.
But I mean, I'll keep reading the chat, and this is going to be quite the experience. First of all, we get the comment there. My first online video game was Halo 2, took over my life. I think Halo 2, for many different reasons, is like going to be a game we could even talk about in the future. Just because it's like it is incredibly influential, not just like first-person shooters, but I think console gaming and online console gaming would be very different without Halo 2.
Oh, yeah. That was big. I still never beat the campaign mode in that game.
Now, I got a comment here, and this is where it's like I was like, Keith, hold on. Then I read this, I'm like, oh man, I got to hold on. If we go by the 10-year cycle, technically, people, Keith, can you go to the Google machine here quickly and look up the PS4 release date? PS4 release date.
November 15th, 2013.
Therefore, the PS4 is closer to becoming a retro console than the opposite.
That's why it doesn't make sense to use dates. You have to look at generations.
Problematic.
Yeah.
Ryan, you were just partially agreeing with the.
I said it was subjective, so I said I could see how that's fair, but. So I would still go by my definition. I'm backwalking here. I would still go by the 2 generations back for a console.
I'm Googling the best games of 2010, and then you tell me if these are retro games. Let's name a few. Mass Effect 2. If you tell me that's retro, I will fly to Boston and fight you. Red Dead Redemption. Not really a retro. Fallout New Vegas. Super Mario Galaxy 2. Call of Duty. Call of Duty Black
Yeah.
Ops. Limbo. Like, it's kind of hard to go by a year.
Yet these are things we would cover on our retro podcast.
Yeah, so officially, a Cash to the Past, people, we could just cover anything apparently now at this
Cast
point.
the Past, we set a soft deadline at about 5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
And even then, that covers almost everything at this point, right? Because it's like,
hey,
we see 5 years, like if it was 15 years ago.
but like, if you really think about, if you really want to go into picking hairs, like this stream started at 1:00 Eastern. It is now 1:41. Would you define the beginning of this stream as retro or
Yes.
the past?
You almost made me
Absolutely.
curse right now. I'm like, come on.
Like, it's 41 minutes in the past, so technically it's coverable in a cast to the past.
Oh man, let me catch up with the chat here quick. We might writes your age to the half ago is retro. I mean, actually, like
15.
we might okay. That's actually not like a bad point because retro for me is going to be very different for retro to somebody that as a kid the PS3 came out. Now I'm 30 now. So if I chop that down by half, it's 15 years old. And honestly, I can look at that and go like, okay, like that's kind of like, we're still in the PS2 generation. So I would have
What's
to
a
agree
game
with that.
from 2005, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they looked that up. A couple more here. My first online game was Monster Hunter Try on Wii. I think it's still online. Wizard
Is
writes, and Wizard, what's
Guitar
going on, man?
Hero
What?
retro? Is Guitar Hero 1, Resident Evil 4. You could kind of see them as retro.
This is a tough conversation to have. Like, I just agree with this,
Back
and
to
I'm
the
like,
chat.
ooh.
Go back to the chat.
Okay, people, Guitar Hero, retro or not, for those in chat. Guitar Hero 1, which came out on PS2, like this is before Guitar Hero 3 came out, so like everything was a cover, no original songs, I think. Everything was like a cover. Wizard wrote, man, CAG just had a thread on Twitter about people's rarest games. Just found out my collection is worth more than I thought it was. Go Hyper Grind is going for $300. Like, I was looking at a video, and like a complete copy of Mega Man Legends 2 on PS2 goes for $140, $150, and I paid like $7 for that game. So people, like, take a look at your video game collections. Not necessarily to sell. I mean, although the world has seen better days. So hey, if you ever need to make some of that money, check that out. Keith is dropping a promo. Writes Kevin, what's going on, man? We might be writing. He got triggered. Keith got triggered. I mean, Keith got triggered.
real hard.
Okay, we might has a question, and I think this is aimed for Keith. Wait, New Vegas is not retro?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Hard stop.
But
Wait, yes retro or no retro?
Tyson has a really good question, though. Does that mean the Wii is retro because it's 2 generations ago for Nintendo, or not because it isn't 2 generations ago for the entire gaming generation?
It's almost
body's
like
hurting
Nintendo
now.
decide this by years, and it's all subjective.
Yeah, Nintendo's in a weird spot because Switch is technically like the PS5, Xbox Series X generation, sort of, but it came out like what, 4 years ago at this point,
Yeah.
or 3 years ago?
Nintendo stuff is kind of weird because even though it's like similar but different, you kind of got to include handheld stuff, and there's been like 5 consoles since the Wii. So it's like Wii Sports kind of falls in a weird place where like the phenomenon of Wii Sports is almost like a retro thing at this point, but I don't know if I would consider Wii Sports to be a
Should we
retro
do a
game.
straw poll if Wii is retro or not?
Let's see here.
It's the only way to solve it.
I don't know.
I'll make one.
Okay, please. As that happens, Justin writes, retro's getting attacked by a bear, but having no visible scars.
I think that's just
unfortunately.
metal, not retro. It's metal.
What?
AF. Like it's metal, like hardcore.
Oh, shut up. The first online game I played was probably Mario Kart Wii. That was actually not a bad one. While Ryan does that straw poll, I would like to go back to Wimaja's proposition of if all of you chopped your age by half, Would you feel comfortable calling whatever that is retro? I think that is quite interesting. If need money, I'd sell Earthbound or Suikoden 2. Yeah, Wizard owns two very expensive games. Kevin writes, Wii's not retro. One thing we can all agree, this talk will never get retro. Always a contemporary subject for debate. See, like,
Yep,
Kevin's
Kevin,
like, okay, the building's
you're
about
right.
to be on fire. We got to pour some water on it. The straw poll is up, people. Oh boy, let's see here.
So I'm thinking more about this whole take your age divide by 2 thing. I think that's a good starting point, but I don't think you can look at it as a hard rule because yeah, we're all the same age, so that would make for us retro would be 2005. I think you can look at something that like Resident Evil 4 was the biggest game from that year. Resident Evil 4 is a GameCube game that has been remastered to death. I think the concept of Resident Evil 4 is a retro game, but I don't know if like do you lose like retro points for the fact that it's still available on modern consoles? Like, can you still
Is the
consider it
PS4 retro
Yeah,
then?
we got NES
Yeah.
games on the Switch. That doesn't make them less retro.
Mm-hmm. But then, like, by going by that rule, that means everything that came out in 2006, if we're going by 2005, is no longer retro. And if you look up some of the games that came out in 2006, which I'm currently stalling and trying to do, you look up, you find games like Oblivion and the original Gears of War. So I don't know. Like, I would consider, just because of like everything that Skyrim did and how obsolete it made Oblivion.
Skyrim is retro.
Yes, it's Skyrim retro. It's on everything now. It's on things that could play retro games, so why not?
I think for
brighten myself up here a little bit.
No worries. I think for me, reacting to a couple of different things in chat, Tyson, based on his age, says 8 years ago isn't retro. Alistair Black, I thought you were working on that. Why is a last gen console not considered retro? Asks Sir Meatwad. I think that a conversation that needs to be had is the difference between old and retro. I think we automatically assume one is the other. I think retro, especially, like, I'm looking up the general definition of retro, like not even in the gaming sense. It's very much tied to a fashion sense, a style, right? So when you bring that into video games, I do think what Wizard of Gore wrote in chat is technically the most accurate sense of retro, because he writes, retro for me is before CDs, except Sega CD, of course. So I think that there is a technological aspect that we are overlooking, that even though the Switch kind of puts this to a stop, is like cartridge and the transition from cartridge to CD, because there is a definite benefit to moving to a CD, right, with more storage and all of that. But I think, like, we can all think of blow on the cartridge on the NES. Like, that is something that is so specific to owning a cartridge. Would all of you say that maybe that could be? Because we got to think of, like, once again, it's not old versus retro. It's like if you're telling, like, retro is a statement in the world of video games, could it perhaps be like that divide between cartridge and CD? What say you guys?
I think it kind of falls into what I mentioned earlier about like generational gaps. Like that's another one of those where you went from cartridge-based media to CD-based media. Like there is no hard set there, because
what
you
about
have the
CD to DVD to Blu-ray?
I think that's
technically
exactly. That's another one of those where you moved from CD to DVD, from the PS1 to the PS2, and the DVDs to Blu-rays. And then somewhere in the middle, the Xbox tried the HD DVDs, and that fell off a cliff. So it all comes down
Was
to
all 360 games on HD DVD or something?
No, because it was only the
No.
movies. They never. It was
okay.
It was an external add-on that you had to buy.
You had to buy like an HD DVD hard drive.
so
an
360.
HD
Oh, that's right.
DVD.
360 was still on standard DVDs, right? So PS3 was the only one ahead at that time using.
That's why a lot
Yep.
of like the late that's where like the install discs came from a lot. Like how you would get like 2 discs in a 360 game. One of them would just be like a pure install. Like I think Red Dead had that, Grand Theft Auto 5 had that, and then there was a play disc where they would actually, like, that's where the media would stream from, so they had to get around that, and because they didn't have the storage of a Blu-ray.
Yeah, and we all know the next step is all digital digital only basically at this point.
And it's the right way to go.
And I do think, going back, I mean, not just because Keith kind of did the Vinnie Mac voice, but Keith brought up earlier in the world of wrestling, there are very defined generations. And I think that we're kind of getting there right now. People we may be unveiling like scientific evidence of the history of video games right now, because it's like when you talk about the media, we go from cartridges, we got floppy disks, but then we move to disc based. But even within that, you have like DVD, you have Blu-ray. Eventually, you have modern cartridges, I'm going to say, which is like DS and Switch. 3D Doritos are retro. Oh man, okay.
Definitely.
Retro food,
Absolutely.
that could be that is our next live stream. Retro foods, we can definitely do that.
Retro soda.
Yeah, let's talk about Crystal Pepsi for a minute.
Or Vault. Was it
Wow.
Mountain Dew Vault?
Before that, though, got to give some TLC. Gracias, El Catao Lepisa, for the follow. Thank you so much, my friend. Destiny 1 and 2 are retro because no one plays them ever. Oh man, so that's a different conversation there. Sir Meat One writes, when the PS6 comes out and all the current gen is digital only, everything physical can pretty easily be considered retro. I think that
it's true. There's going to come a point where physical media is considered retro, because if you think about look at the conversation we just had with DVDs and CDs and Blu-rays slowly becoming retro. There is going to come a point where those don't exist anymore. And even though we're in the middle of it right now and it seems so far beyond, it's going to happen one day where the games we are looking at right now, I've got a copy of, I don't actually have anything in front of me. I thought I had a copy of Horizon New Dawn in front of me. That Blu-ray physical copy is going to be considered retro one day, just like everything else.
Man, that is a sad future, because we'll probably be dead by the time we consider that. We consider that, or our generation could consider
is that why
that
it's
because
sad?
Yeah.
Or for other reasons.
I mean, hey, it's gonna give me 20 more videos I can do on the channel, right? We need to have physical media survive. Like and subscribe. We got a couple more things here. I think we are headed towards retro physical media video games. Absolutely. We might, tongue in cheek, but he's onto something there. I would consider DVDs retro-ish, because DVDs in the grand scheme lasted very, very little time. DVDs in the mainstream sense were they're still relevant today, right? But they substituted VHS. I want to say 2001 till 2009. In 2006, Blu-ray became more of an alternative viable option because of the PS3. And even though a DVD is available, I think anybody that buys a DVD now, or anybody generally speaking that owns a 40 plus inch TV, I don't think they realize hey, I'm getting the best product, right? There is actually a better version of that.
The thing
I
is,
would
though,
consider that.
DVDs, the thing is, Blu-ray actually never got fully adopted, I feel like.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, Ring of Honor still sells DVDs. WWE stopped selling Blu-rays after a while.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't profitable.
Yeah. People still get DVDs instead of Blu-rays, which is kind of interesting.
Man,
it's true.
Sorry to interrupt.
In the video game sense, Blu-ray's the way, and it.
But yeah,
makes sense. But most people in their home don't. Who do you know who has a straight up Blu-ray player in their home? I can't name a single person.
No, both of you, I got some homework for you. Angry Video Game Nerd did an excellent video about this. I don't know if you've seen it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Keith,
the menus and stuff were way better for DVDs.
Yeah, he's making the argument, and it seems like a dumb topic, but then you listen to him and you're like, oh, that's a good topic. He's mentioning that the transition from VHS to DVD arguably was a downgrade rather than an upgrade.
You mean
take
DVD
a look at that.
Blu-ray?
No, VHS to DVD.
Oh,
VHS to DVD. And he makes some incredible points that I hadn't even thought about. So, take a look at that. We can maybe, this could be a good topic for the show, actually.
Yeah, this is a conversation that has been going on forever, though. Look at in the music space as well. Look at vinyl versus CD versus cassette. Like, you still have the people, the like set of people that swear by vinyl, and the music should be played on by a record player only. Like, owning a CD is blasphemy. Like, you're never going to have something that's fully adopted, because if you take that thought and then put that against like that same theory against like DVD versus Blu-ray, like, some of the best music of our generation came out on a CD and never on a vinyl. And all, like, is that considered lessened because it didn't originally come out on a vinyl? No, maybe to some, absolutely, but that doesn't mean that it's like it's any less because of that.
That's a really good point, because that brings up another topic that I refuse to even get to, because the amount of like subtopic, it's like modern retro, right? Stuff that comes out on vinyl now that didn't come out on vinyl then, but because it's an old format with a new release of something that didn't come out back in the day, is that retro? No, I am not having that conversation right now.
Then what came first, the chicken and the egg, and we all have no idea.
By the way, final poll results.
Yeah.
60% say the Wii is not retro. 40% say yes.
Okay.
So
people have spoken, so I mean, hey, you can't lie with data, right?
Yeah, 5 votes worth of data.
Yeah. So a whole lot of stuff I got to catch up here in the chat. Wizard writes, I bought a PS3 because it was a Blu-ray player. It was the cheapest and best one at the time. Same here. Like, I wanted to make the switch, but the real reason that I did is because I kept seeing how just great everything looked in Blu-ray. GTA 5 is a DVD for the solo and a DVD for the online. On 360, I didn't know. I never owned the 360 version, so I actually didn't know that.
Okay.
There was a question about, is my fashion style retro? I mean, it's got retro themed stuff, so I'm gonna go with like modern retro, contemporary. Okay, Keith, like, if you hear the words contemporary retro, how much do you want to punch your screen?
Oh, I just want to throw my head against this wall right beside me.
Tyson says his parents still have Netflix movies mailed to them. That's crazy that's still like available.
Remember when you would have to get the Netflix disc to watch movies on Wii or PS3? I mean, that was a thing. Like the streaming films, like not the physical ones, to stream. When that first came out, because there was still no app for the PS3, you would actually, because I had that disc for a while, you would have Netflix mail you a permanent DVD, which you would put in the PS3 or the Wii, and then that would connect you to the service. And that's how you would watch the crappy library of streaming stuff.
That's so weird. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually kind of happy that went away. Like, GameFly and all those subscription-based services, for my own selfish reasons, I am happy that went away, because I mean,
they still exist, but
do they though?
Yeah, I mean, it's an option.
They're there.
Wait, does GameFly still exist?
Yeah. I mean, Redbox. I mean, to like a lesser degree, I think they are going to go away, right? Like, just give it time, and they'll go away completely.
I'm not going to lie. There was a point in my life where I had a collection agency coming after me for a copy of Devil May Cry 4 because I forgot to.
All right, so I just typed in.
Did you give it back though?
I did.
Okay.
I typed in GameFly, and it randomly took me to a Wayne Manor with Alfred Funko Pop. And it's on the GameFly website. I don't know how I got there, but
maybe it's some exclusive thing or something.
It's still a thing, and you can actually still get 360 games through GameFly. Apparently, PS3 and 360.
Wow! So they're just reselling the old discs they bought back in the day and haven't kept up.
I think you can actually buy games from here too.
Yeah, you can buy a couple things in chat. We might have writes, Kevin, Juan by default is retro. I mean, I'm only going to get even retro with age. It's like a fine game. It gets better with age. I think that's how the saying works.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. I'm typing Dunkaroos or retro just to try and pop Ryan. I've yet to try Dunkaroos, so like that's got to happen someday. We should have like a retro food tasting streamer or something like that.
And I remember I said they were bad, and then Keith, you fought me on this one, but then you tried them again, didn't you? And you came around.
Yeah, they're gross sugar, watery stuff. Yeah, it's not great.
Is it retro though?
Oh, absolutely.
It is retro. Yeah.
See,
Well,
But
not
they
to
still
Canada.
sell-
It is to the United States,
Yeah,
but
like
it
I
isn't to
can
Canada.
go to my grocery store and go buy a pack of Dunkaroos. So
I mean, you
is
can
it
go to
retro?
GameStop and buy a PS2 game
You're
and
right.
PS1 game.
Can you anymore?
Yeah,
But
some
the
of them
difference
actually.
is
Some of them have
the-
Super Nintendo games. I saw them in October.
The difference is that they're not manufacturing that game still. Like that is a
Oh,
copy
oh.
that was released in 2008 or whatever. If you're going to buy a pack of Dunkaroos from 2008, God help you because you'll need it.
Okay. So by your definition, a modern Dunkaroo it would not be retro, but if you ate one from 2008, that one would be retro.
That is retro.
That would be a retro package of Dunkaroos. Yeah, I get it.
But okay, Ryan, check out what's about to happen here. By your definition, Keith, something from 2008 could be considered retro.
I just threw out a number. I don't have any science.
Oh,
behind it.
come on.
But good try.
People, I
give you an
tried.
incorrect word there.
I was cornered him. There was a really good thing over here. Justin asks, what is the modern day equivalent to the retro mixtape? Spotify? Playlists,
Spotify
I guess?
playlist, probably.
Yeah, a Spotify playlist, I'd say. A digital version. Or there's so many music services now, just like insert music service here playlist.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good.
Just Dance 2020 on Wii is retro.
That's a good question because
we determined though that the Wii is not retro, so I think we're safe on that topic.
that is true. That is true. A couple more things. Audio CDs are still in despite online streaming, so CDs cannot be labeled as retro. And I think like with that one, a good observation is CDs objectively tend to sound better than MP3s and all of that stuff because MP3s are compressed, like they are a compressed format, right? Like
especially for streaming because you're compressing it so it can go out fast and efficiently.
Like we're not saying that it sounds bad, but like the science and data is there. It does not lie, which is it is not better. That
You heard
means
Scott Steiner, folks. The numbers don't lie.
exactly the numbers don't lie. They spell doom for you. So
For you.
I think we need to disconnect ourselves from retro being old or outdated. It is like going back. You know, somebody could dress up right now like something from the 60s, and it could be a retro style definitive to that. I mean, it's going to look weird, right? But somebody can do that. Like, and I think that is the most realistic comparison we could have with some of that stuff. But
Justin
if you didn't
asks
think
in the chat, is Scott Steiner himself retro? And I feel like that answer is yes.
Yeah,
even
he's a
though I
legend.
think he had
He's a
match
legend. Like,
recently.
Yeah.
you do not categorize him with everything else, okay? See here, my parents still have Netflix movies mailed, right? Like, there's a lot of. I'm trying to keep up with the chat, people. I realize now, like, oh boy, there's a lot I got to catch up here.
Random
See-
aside, but can a couple people type some just completely random words that have nothing to do with this topic? You'll know what it means later. Continue.
Oh boy, I'm afraid now.
I'm going to write one.
Let's see here. Wizard writes, look, the Bioshock score was meant to be on record. Thankfully, it came in Bioshock 2 Collector's Edition. Nice. Fall Guys is retro, right, Yannick? Yannick, thank you for the host earlier, by the way. And no. Although, I mean, Keith brought up Minecraft. I think there's retro style. I think a lot of games, for example, do strive for a retro style, and Minecraft being the best example of that. Redbox just dropped games. I didn't even know that. My Dish Network receiver still has Blockbuster branding on the front. You put that up on eBay, you'll make a couple of bucks. Gamefly sells games for a good price sometimes. They do. Tokinet, what's going on? Writes, they still use Gamefly. I actually used in Puerto Rico, they had Boundless Games, I think was the name of the service. It was basically like a local Gamefly. That was pretty damn good. I mean, like, I was broke. I didn't have a job, so like $60 for a game in the PS3 generation, nuh-uh. But I mean, I could spend, I think it was like 12. Kane with the 69 bits. Keith, say it.
What's
say
up,
it.
Kane?
Nice.
Kane, thank you for the 69 bits. I'm not doing that.
No, damn it. Retro is a mix of style and nostalgia, in my opinion. I think that statement from Tokinet is definitely there. It's like, it is a style. I think it's difficult to... Son of a- I almost contemplated turning off the wrestling promos.
Oh no, I'm like, okay, seeing as
I
Ryan
save
broke
up
the seal,
specifically for those
Yeah.
one. I don't
Go-
spend my points on anything else.
Yeah.
everybody in the chat, I have like 7,001 points saved up. So if there's anything you want me to cash in, you just type it in there.
Luckily, there's like a 2 stream limit on those points.
No, there isn't. They last forever. I've been saving
No, no,
up
no.
for like a month.
A cash in. A cash in. I should say that you like after 2, I think it cuts off. See here. I just beat Black Ops the other day. I love that story. I still want to play like all of the COD story modes because like I stopped after Modern Warfare. So like I'm thinking of doing Modern Warfare 2 eventually and stuff like that. Is Mixer retro? No, Mixer was a failure.
No, I mean, it is obsolete.
There is gonna come a point where
Obsolete.
it will be. Like you'll see somebody in like a retro Mixer hat or something like that. But all right, cut your turkey promo.
I'm
we're
sure,
gonna
like,
we're gonna sit back.
How much like Mixer swag do you think like Ninja's just gonna have in his attic? You know, like
There's a warehouse
He's going to
filled
sign all
with
that. Thing is, he can't sell that right now because it's not retro now. He's got to wait
Yeah.
like 10, 15 years. Still be relevant, right? Otherwise, he's got to go into one of those wrestling conventions and then sell that. AJ Styles will rock a Mixer hat. Yeah, he's heard stories. He's heard theories about Mixer as well.
the Mixer community.
So is Google Plus retro? Man, Google doesn't
Oh,
know what the
yeah.
hell. Like,
I actually
remember
got
Google
an email
Plus?
about like a class action lawsuit around Google Plus.
Yeah, did they shut down recently? I thought I saw something
It's
like
been a while
Google
ago.
Plus
Yeah,
profile
It's been shut down
deactivated.
for a while.
Yeah, they're shutting down Google like the music service. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it is
that's
now.
the one.
Yeah. Dustin TV. Funny story about that. Like we streamed on Dustin TV before it became Twitch. Like we had a channel like.
So
like
are we
the-
retro?
Oh my! Wait, are we retro? Wow. I mean, how old is
feel it-
Twitch?
Yeah. I feel like we're getting too into the
Who
weeds.
are we, Ryan? Who
Yeah.
are we?
You know who we are? We are
The Earth
a
is
group
retro.
of people where one of us needs to cut a promo on turkey before.
Okay,
he
so what are
completely
we
goes
talking
over
about when
and
we say like a
forgets.
promo on a turkey? Like, is it like a turkey leg, a live
Cut a
turkey, like
promo on like the dude that goes gobble gobble gobble.
The goblin.
like
you know
the
what?
gobbledygooker? Yeah, like
Think-
what are we
think-
talking about here?
Think about you're going up against Gobbledygooker Survivor Series 1990. What do you got to say?
One, have you seen a turkey in real life before?
Yeah.
They're not friendly.
They're
No,
terrifying.
no, like I mean, there's a reason why there's like chases and all that, and they get upset at that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's terrifying.
Okay, so let me. Meanwhile, Nicole asks, "Does anybody remember Google Wave? I used it, and I don't remember anything about it, but I know I did. Like, I think I used it. Here, let me grab the microphone. I heard like it increases the promo rate. Okay, Ryan, give me like a tone. Like you're producing me. Like give me like a tone. What are we talking about here?
Okay.
It's a promo. It's like a wrestling match. It's gonna happen, but like, what's the tone and
You get
feel?
a turkey that's in your driveway and it just pecked at your car and dented it, and you want revenge and you have a match this Saturday.
This Saturday, it is time, my friends, to unleash hell on thy turkey that unleashed hell on my car. Because I understand that people are actually, in some places, others are not, they're socially distancing. But then I'm walking out, and then these freaking turkeys thinks that just because they have a beak, and maybe the beak breaks all of this, they can get away with not just getting close to my car. They actually dented my car, and then when I tried to talk to him, all he said was like, no. It's like, hey, are you mocking me? Are you doing like the Rocks? He's like, like that's not it, okay? I need you to pay for my freaking car. Because what more could be humiliating than going to Costco and somebody asking you like, oh man, did they like dent your car with like one of them carts or something? It's like, no, freaking turkey. So this Saturday, we're gonna be having a first blood match, okay? So you better get the razor out because I'll be cutting that turkey, okay? I'll be cutting that turkey and you're gonna be going down. And then afterwards, on Sunday, it's gonna be an inferno match where I'm gonna put your dead carcass into that freaking oven, okay?
Okay, so going back to the topic
I have
of
tears in my eyes.
so about the topic of retro, I was thinking.
Uh,
Wow.
blood match into an inferno match. That was genius.
Going back to like the very first topic you and I were talking about before we began, there was a thing about the thumbnails and all that. Is what is your guys' take on, the pandemic has created an opportunity for a lot of people that are at home to get creative, maybe start up a YouTube channel, stuff like that. And how important do you guys think like YouTube as a platform is now? Because I mean, we are on Twitch right now, right? Before we had Mixer, it's gone. Facebook is experimenting with Facebook gaming, not just for streaming, but I mean, I know a lot of people that Facebook as a whole for video, like that is their platform. What's your guys' take for the gaming side of things in YouTube? Do you consume gaming videos on YouTube? Like, what's your take on YouTube and gaming now?
I think it's a great platform for I like watching gameplay on YouTube. So there's a lot of games like the one that I'm really into right now on YouTube is Hearthstone Battlegrounds. I probably watch about 10 times more Battlegrounds than I play just because it's fun to watch people that are better than me at it. So I think I love it for that. And I love it that it exposes me to other avenues and other people that enjoy it. I love your channel, Juan, and I think everybody that's here should go follow it. YouTube.com/ready Mr. Player One, right?
Ready
Player One. It's just Player. It's like it's even less than this. There's no Mister, man. It's just Player
Okay.
One. Poop head.
Fair enough. Yeah, follow that one. Those essay type of videos, they're personally not for me, but I know a lot of people love them. I'm more on the gameplay style of YouTube, and I think it's a great tool for that.
I mean, I also have YouTube.com/Player One Plays, which is actually a Let's Play channel. So that is an option too. It's like one's for everybody, even eating turkey ass. I'm for everybody. So yeah.
Yeah, you don't
There you go.
subscribe to that channel.
No.
#1
By the way,
turkey.
before we keep going, regarding the previous question, Tokinet writes, Justin writes, we use Microsoft Teams for work. I've tried
use that
Teams.
as well,
Same
but
here.
it's
Yeah.
still not amazing for if you need stable video. It's still
Yeah.
not great for that.
Team is a lot more of a multi-use tool rather than a video voice app. See here, Slack or Microsoft Teams for work. Oh, now I was thinking about my Juan intro parodies with the "Is it worth it?" or replace it by "Is it retro?" Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
remember, people. If I talk about something, I gotta ask: Is it worth buying? Why you should? What is?
Or why you should in 2020.
Exactly in
That would almost be
2020.
a fun series of this. Is it retro? Just
In
to see the
2020.
comments light on fire. Is it
It's-
retro in 2020?
Here's a video. Here's your SEO video.
Okay,
one.
okay.
Is 2020 retro in 2020? There
Oh
you go.
my goodness!
You know what? I think you could make a case for January to March
Yep.
being considered retro. At this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. It's sad that Ryan said that as a joke, and I'm like, okay, so
Yeah,
those
he's
3
not
months, what
right.
happened then? And then you talk about the shit.
It's 2019 retro at this point.
Yes. I think we can all agree
There was a fundamental shift.
it was. See here, Nicole writes that she also uses Slack. Justin writes, bad gamers like me depend on YouTube for walkthroughs. I mean, Justin, you're talking my language there. At least you didn't say Epic JC, right? Yeah. Then I would be concerned, Keith, you watch my channel. I haven't Epic JC in 2 years.
Yeah.
Would you-
The only reason I knew that is because we made a Billy Gunn joke before we started recording.
Hashtag William Pistol, man.
Because you're not the one Billy Gunn.
I mean, that is true. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, Tyson with the question of the evening, of the afternoon. Is going outside retro? Oh.
It's going outside in groups retro, kind of.
In
Well, not
2020.
really. It's more illegal than retro.
Let's see here. Kane writes, would you ever do a part 2 of the childhood snacks video? That one was fun for me to watch. I have a lot of ideas of things that in the more serious sense, I'm at a point in my life where decisions need to be made about my future, not in 2020. So like when I apply for a video, it would be, what is Juan's future in 2021? Depending on the election, that may change wildly. So like we'll see what happens there.
If you're a YouTuber, you need to make at least the future of Player One video. It's like
That is true.
That make it sound like you're shutting the channel down, but actually it's good news.
If we do a childhood, I like your idea though. If we do a childhood snacks part 2, we should actually order some and like eat them.
That would be cool. There's actually
I committed to the last one. I ate Gushers on the internet for that, and it was good. And I do it again.
Yeah. I was eating Gushers regularly before we ever did that episode. Those never went away for me.
It's sad. I'm actually looking this up because I know there's like a vintage. Ooh, what is the difference between vintage and retro?
Oh, let's not.
Well, no. Too deep.
Michael Cole is the vintage, or the difference between vintage and retro.
Yeah.
See here. Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
If the Undertaker isn't retro, is him using old school retro because it's vintage old?
Oh
Undertaker.
no. Okay.
Wait.
Too deep.
No, hold on.
Too deep.
One. If a hang rope DDT is vintage Orton, what would be retro Orton?
Retro Orton? No, I'm not going to say that.
Probably the overdrive. Well, for the two people that get that.
I think
here, we might
something that happened to Jillian Hall's bag.
Oh wow, no. that would be Throwback Thursday. See here, we might writes. I only watch gameplay videos before launch. I watch topic discussion and combo/strategy videos afterwards. Yeah, because like Uemaja, for example, he's a big part of the esports scene, which is its own thing, right? Like it's an entire thing. Bite that, is it retro? Because it ended 5 years, 5 years ago.
I think it's retro us.
It ended in what It ended in 2017, so almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, so it's only 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, what a 3 years it's been!
Right, it was around Hurricane Maria. So
yeah.
Wow, talking like the worst time to like end a podcast.
The Cast of the Past is almost 2 years old.
Yeah, really. Like you had a hurricane. I was living in a basement. Man,
yeah, and then dead, killed off the show.
You weren't in the last episode.
Yeah, man, that was pathetic. February was 40 years ago. It was like 45, man. February feels like an eternity ago. So I watch Twitch for gameplay. Same thing. Like, I don't watch for me in YouTube, I don't consume a lot of Let's Play because like I get very aggravated by most people on YouTube. Like, I have a really hard time finding channels that I like to subscribe to. DokiNet writes, how do you support this channel? Some of the best ways you can support here are by subscribing. If you subscribe, you actually get your own customized jewel case as the ones that you see right there. You can also donate bits. I opened up a Patreon, which I canceled or paused immediately because the week that I launched it, a lot of changes happened at work, and I'm like, I cannot deliver weekly videos. So like for the foreseeable future, I'm not promoting that Patreon, but we also have a Ko-fi for a Cast of the Past, which we've not used for like 9 months, but it is technically active. So like that's technically an option. See here, when the new month comes out, the last month is retro. I mean, the last month is like old school. Okay, see, so if you go to a new school, the old one is old.
But if you think of like, okay, December's retro in January, but then you're going to have another December, so it's no longer retro.
Man,
I'm starting to hate this topic, guys.
Yeah. We're like exhausted. It's like, oh, what is retro? This chicken, retro? I made it last week. Is it retro? See here, going outside is the future. Oh, it's going to be quite a while. Retro Orton involves a duffel bag. Yeah, Justin knows what we're talking about. Are board games retro? That's actually interesting.
Really. Not really. I mean, that's still a thing regularly. Like I regularly.
I mean, so are retro games, but they're retro.
It kind of falls into the Resident Evil 4 thought of like, you could say that Sorry is a retro board game, but they release like classic versions of Sorry.
It's never fallen out of favor. It's like you wouldn't consider Coca-Cola retro, right? Just because it's old, but it's still a regular part of,
Like
popular
you can get
culture.
a retro bottle of Coke, like they sell the glass bottles.
All right, can we just stop?
So let's go back, like Ryan, without too many details, and Keith, like the three of us, like aside from having the common theme of being friends and all that, we've had like the privilege to work on projects, like whatever they are, right? Whether it be podcasts, whether it be YouTube channels and all that. So the wide open question, there's no like specific answer here, is expectation versus reality of actually producing anything like that. How difficult do you think it is, and maybe that people don't understand how difficult it is to get one podcast episode out or one YouTube video out?
I think
there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, there is a lot that goes into it, but at the same time, the reason why I love like doing the podcast so much is that you get one take with it. Like there is a lot of work that goes into it. Like we do our research, we make sure we come to it prepared, but when we sit down to record Monday at 7, by Monday at 9, it is done. It's not like we're going to go like, well, should we do it again? No. I mean, like there have been times where that's happened, where we've like really hated something and done it again. But there's a freedom to it that you can do all the prep in the world. You can think about what you're going to say. But once it's time to sit down and do it, there's really just one take, even if you don't get everything out of it.
Smirking with that topic. Like, go ahead.
Keep going.
No. Why are you laughing? I wanted
to check out the stream. I've officially included you into a conversation of producing content in 2020. Is it worth it? Yes.
Juan's just clipping this and stealing it for his YouTube channel.
Yeah, no kidding. There's the thumbnail right there. Me looking like.
But yeah, with podcasts there, like, you've had experiences both with Ryan and me, and then you also had the 6-pack challenge at the time about like these podcasts where there's like the weekly expectation of not just like recording, right? But also like watching, and sometimes maybe you don't like what you watch, but you still have a show to do. Like, how difficult do you think that part is?
I found out very quick that hey, you know what? That's for some people, but after doing Bite That for so many years and following the news cycle or the news wheel, it can get very exhausting and very like you have to enjoy what you do, because I strongly believe that if you don't have passion behind what you're doing and if you don't enjoy it, then how can you expect somebody else to sit there and enjoy it? Because like everybody that's here right now, thank you so much for stopping by and spending this couple of hours with us on the Sunday. But like we're asking you for an investment of your time to do something like this. So as content creators, you have to be creating something that is worth that investment for people. And I think one of the most important things for that is to enjoy what you're doing, to have like love behind those words for that topic, or even love is the wrong word, to have passion behind it. Because whether it's a positive or a negative thing, like you need to believe in it if you're asking somebody else to believe in you and the stuff that you make. And I think like that's the number one thing that separates like the good and the bad stuff out there, is just passion behind it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of easy stuff out there that people will like clip other people's, and even that actually takes time, but they'll clip other people's content and make money off of it. I just want to read a couple of things because I thought they were funny. But Justin saying new Coke is retro, but Coke Classic isn't retro. #deep. That's actually a good point. And then Kane said, Vera says, I don't know if you remember her, though. I do, from my Pokemon stream days. So that's pretty cool that you guys still keep in touch.
Nice.
But for producing content, yeah, I think with the podcast, like agree with everything Keith said, that it's nice that for at least the audio part, we prepare, and then no matter what comes out of Monday, that is the show, and it's okay if you flub on a few lines, because it's a podcast and that format's a little more relaxed and it's a little bit less produced. And then we've gotten into sort of a rhythm that makes it very convenient for us to be able to produce those weekly. But I was just talking with Juan prior to the stream. I've had some ideas that I've wanted to work on for like my own personal videos that I'm planning on making, one of which I'm working on now. And it's giving Juan a lot of credit for his solo channel, because this is the side of content creation I haven't been a part of in a while, where it's like a more scripted, formal video with a lot more editing. And I'm realizing, wow, it's a completely different world. So I like
The
a
thing-
lot
The
of
thing that I
respect to
hate
Juan.
about it so much, and yeah, I give one all the respect in the world for this, but I have this mindset, and it happens to me a lot in my work, where if I know I can screw up and I know I have that safety net of being able to voice something or record something again, I
Yep.
find myself more able to just say like, oh, well, that sucked, I'll do it again. And then I've done it 40 times and I'm still not happy with it. So that's kind of the beauty of the podcast, where once it's done, it's done. I can't sit there and just go over like, well, I hate how I said the in that. I should have said it like the instead of the. So there's a freedom to it, and it's almost like a freedom to myself. And hey, that works for some people. Some
it
people
helps to have the other people too, right? Because if it's just you, it's very easy for you to be like, let me scrap the entire thing and start over. But it's like, if you have two other people, well, it's like, we only have this time to record it, so no matter what,
it has
comes
to
out
be
of it,
good.
yeah, if it sucks, it sucks. We just got to move on. But luckily, it usually doesn't. And yeah, I am working on some stuff, Kane. It's gonna be a little while, I think, but I'm already editing my first video, so nothing to announce other than that. But
And I want to catch up with the chat because there's some really good comments about this topic here. See here, going back, Wimaja wrote producing. Oh, and Tokinet, de verdad que gracias por el apoyo. Thank you so much, my friend. Wimaja wrote producing a podcast on top of managing work-life balance is hard. No, it's super hard. Prep work and edit takes hours. People shooting is the easy part. I would agree, and sometimes it's like I have the benefit, like the three of us or we sometimes take for granted that we have a natural chemistry that like I kind of know what Keith is going to say, or, just by like a certain expression, I'm like, okay, I can open this up and I kind of know, but
What does this
that
one
takes
say?
years that you love me.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you do. It's like, no, but it's so difficult because when you don't quite understand the tone of the room, I could be thinking, even in a podcast, which is hypothetically, or this right now, this is the most podcast type thing I've done in a stream. Once you go live, as you both mentioned, it's like, it's happening. So whatever that is technically the podcast, but I as a host can be like, okay, it's a bad movie or it's a bad game, or we're just going to trash it. But then as people keep talking, you're like, uh-oh, wait, this is shifting. So I think it's measuring out content that is not for you is difficult, because I have listened to a lot of podcasts that you can tell they don't know how to connect with the listener. They know how to connect with myself. And I'm like, I don't need to record content for myself, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to do that. Because like I'm assuming for you, Ryan, as you're scripting out the video that you're mentioning, the hard part is not why you like something or not, right? It's that you know what you like, but putting that into a format that you can put it out to the world and people like, oh, that's what he means, because maybe you say something and it doesn't actually come across as you would like it to be.
100%. Like, I've never been the best writer, so it is difficult for, like, I've always been kind of a bullet points guy. So trying to do a word for word, I'm not a creative writer. Like, I'm very like to the point kind of person. So to try and add a little more fluff and detail, that's never been my thing. Like in school, my papers, I was never the kid that wrote a 20-page paper with a 10-page minimum. If it was a 10-page minimum, it was gonna be
You were
nine.
at 7 and you're like,
I was like, yeah, I was at 7 and I was increasing the spacing and punctuation sizes.
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
those
It's like, come
extra
on.
pages.
A couple more things in chat I want to make sure I get across here. Wimaja wrote, Today I had to manage an unexpected situation, and now my schedule is all messed up and all, and impacting my recording session. It's super hard. You need to love it. Nicole wrote, it's easy to lose motivation with content creation. I think it's important to maintain passion for what you do, but at the same time, make sure you're healthy while doing it. And I think another thing is like, what do you hope to get out of it? Because like the reason that I love working content with both of you is I remember like this must have been like the second year of Byte That we had like a meeting of like, what is this, right? Because there was a point that, I mean, Byte That, I think the reason I think about it a lot is like, I don't think we understand how successful it was towards like its middle point. I mean, we reached like an average of like 5,000 to 7 listens a week on the audio side. And I mean, breaking 100 or breaking 500 nowadays, right, is so difficult. Yet we reached that. The YouTube side, maybe it didn't get quite as much as we would like. But even then, like when you look in hindsight, it's like, yeah, it's
we still
difficult.
have like 6,500 subscribers, so. And now, I mean, we knew making a cast of the past, it's going to be a way slower climb. And, we've definitely seen things pick up. Sometimes it's hard to feel it. But then when you look at how active our Discord is, you're like, okay, we've got something here.
Yeah,
but
we just surpassed 6,000 lifetimes listens on the audio version, which I think I'm proud
because
of.
we knew all the stuff we would cover it's not current stuff, so no one's gonna not everyone in the world's gonna be searching for it. People are gonna stumble upon it slowly, and the more content we make, the more different topics, more and more people will stumble upon it. But it's a much bigger hill to climb, but it's something where we're 2 years in now, almost 2 years in, and there's no burnout because we haven't covered Takedown yet, so
Oh,
it's the worst.
Oh.
Okay.
But
that was
like,
the ultimate wad joke.
Oof,
Even he was disappointed by that.
That hurt my soul.
Because there's variety. That was the main point.
And
it's variety.
It's variety, and it goes back to what you want to get out of it. Like for me, like the difference between a cast of the past and Byte That is like we went into this. Like for me, a cast of the past success is secondary. Like it is something that I spend time on, but it's the fact that I get to do it. Like, hey, you guys have been my best friends for a very, very long time, more than half my life. It is a platform for me to sit down, play and consume things that I enjoy while talking about it with people that I want to spend time talking with. So like that is the answer to why what I want to get out of a cast of the past. And the fact that people enjoy listening to us, that's just like a sweet cherry on top. And thank you for anybody that's ever listened to it.
Like you said at the beginning of our channel, it's basically a book club, but we record it for other people to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
Which we should have marketed that like that. That should be the thing.
That really should have been the sell line for it.
Yeah. But I think the biggest challenge with
we should do something.
Yeah, Keith's like, it's like we're talking about this. I was like, you should be working on that. Like book club in 2020 is a cast of the past worth listening to or something like that.
Yeah, book club, is it worth it?
But there's no way to call it like if you say video game club or movie club, it doesn't have the same meaning.
I mean, that's why I use retro games and movie podcast. So like technically anything we cover is retro just based on it's on the Twitter description. Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to mention is that it is very difficult, to just produce content now and what it is. Because, for example, I have had 2 videos, like one that reached 100K and one is like 200 views away from reaching 100K. And Like obviously that does not transition over
Which
to
I think
the other.
surpassed anything we ever did with Bite That. I don't think Bite That ever got that high up in a
that
video.
What about the
video
wrestling
game-
games?
Oh,
I
Yeah,
let
the
me check.
wrestling game
Let me
ones, I
check.
think.
Yeah,
did
please
it.
check that out. Yeah.
You know, this comes as a shock to me, but there is not a Bullet Club T-shirt inspired retro club shirt, at
Really?
least that I could find by a quick Google, and that is shocking to me.
Probably
there's,
because they
like,
actually started taking down some of the stuff
Yeah.
for legal
There was-
reasons.
there was a point where everything was a Bullet Club
What-
T-shirt.
What was your most viewed one?
That was the Xbox followed by PS3.
How many views was it? Is it? around-
It's like 99 and the other one's like 102.
Oh, okay. So our only two videos on Bite That came close to that was top 10 video games, which sits at 445,000 right now.
Jeebus.
And then
Are you
your
still like,
2K
is that being
your two-
monetized? You serious question
Yeah,
though.
are we still making money
Oh,
on that?
I don't know what happened with our
Ryan,
person
isn't like
we were-
your social security the one in that? So
It is. Oh, believe me, I get emails all the time about like take your money, but we would have to change it to under my name, I think, to do it. So I just never did.
yeah.
But I doubt it's that much money.
If
And
there's
then the
one
other thing
thing I
was
am
that
not okay with is just money sitting there. Look into that.
your 2K16 CM Punk face photo capture has 118.
That is like the most
1,000.
low effort video I have ever done in my
Uh-huh.
life.
Like,
Yeah.
if there is one thing I learned from that channel is if there is one type of content I do not want to create, it is that launch day vomit out as much as you
Yeah.
can. Because we did that with a couple of the WWE 2K games, and I hated
Yeah.
every single second of it.
I mean, that's why in my case, well, first up, Yannick writes 110K for the Game Pass video. I mean, I in no way thought that was ever going to reach that, honestly. SVR6 is amazing. The Game Pass video is how I found you. Yeah, no, like, I think to me, it is weird. That YouTube channel is technically my main channel, right? Or main whatever the hell. Yet I'm starting to treat it secondary because the biggest challenge is that YouTube, like, and I guess streams become the same way, I guess, if you're like a ninja or something, right? Eventually it is so hard to even keep up with all of that like that PS3 video, once it loaded up, I would get like 80 comments a day, like 50 comments a day, and it is impossible to read all of that. So eventually it just became numbers, and I'm like, all right, I mean, it's doing well. That's awesome, right? The goal is for people to watch the video, but after a while, I'm like, man, I don't know what I want, right? And I've found a lot more enjoyment out of this. And honestly, like the Let's Play channel, which I opened, which averages like 16 views, I sometimes get more satisfaction of just like sitting down, like more laid back content. And well, that's kind of like how I'm doing right now.
There's going to be a small cameo in a moment from
Oh,
a
snap.
famous Instagram.
Oh my no!
Ooh.
Wait, Ryan, we didn't sign a contract. Am I gonna get taken down? Am I gonna be taken down?
Yeah, are all the
Yeah.
royalties going to this famous Instagrammer now?
Potentially, we'll see.
Maybe
Yeah.
on the next video
Yeah.
I'll show off my new buddy.
Oh no!
right.
I don't
I'm
wanna
anticipating like, let's get them views. Okay, people, like things are about to spike here, like you would not believe right now in terms
Yeah.
of views. Like, oh
We
my
have a
goodness!
famous Instagram influencer about to come on the call. Like, everybody, if you
Hello to
hide your kids, hide your wife.
Pug Henry.
Hug Henry. He's got Mr. Krabs in his mouth right now.
Pug Henry, I love you.
Here.
I love you.
Let everyone see your beautiful face for a moment.
I just see a crab. Oh,
Look at that.
Oh,
Look
Henry.
at that.
All right, he's starting to bite me. All right, I'll let him down.
Yeah.
he's just like, give me
That
my
is,
damn crab.
The puppy. You
Yeah,
can, if you
amazing
want to
pup.
see him on Instagram, it's pug.henry. So
He is
cheap plug
amazing.
out there for him.
He is amazing. No, but something I wanted to show here is just like, regarding the initial question of just how much effort goes into, welcome back, Ace, into like one of these videos. Like, for example, today I put out a video. Oh, man. Oh, man.
The kitty.
I also have a new friend. Everybody.
Yeah.
Don't even have a name yet. But we
Oh, no name yet?
He's just a little guy. He's 2 weeks old, or 2 months old.
2 months.
Look at the camera. Nameless friend. We'll move you.
Oh,
There we
over
go. There we go.
There he is.
He wants to take a nap. Is it a he or a she?
Oh,
It's a he.
it's a he.
That's way too adorable.
There's a GIF on my other screen that he's enamored with right now.
Really?
So yeah, if you have any name suggestions, please put them in the chat. I don't know what we're leaning at this point. My information's like 2 hours old.
Is this your? Is it
2
more
hours
your
old.
cat? Is it a share? Like
It's a chat, or it's a cat. It's a chat. It's a cat that Chelsea and I are potentially adopting. Like, we have a week trial period to see how
Okay.
he's doing with the house. But yeah, so far pretty good. We had a good night last
I feel
night.
like you want to go with the Star Wars name, Keith.
I do, but I wouldn't. I don't get to do
Jargy.
that. All right, we're gonna pass them off here.
How about Greedo?
No, a good Star Wars character.
That would not be a bad name, Blanks. Like
All right.
he is the timekeeper.
All right, Keith's gonna name him Kid Fisto.
I'm gonna just
Wow.
name him Cheska Saboba.
I'm gonna pretend like I know these characters. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Doc
Wicked.
Honda.
You got Blinks. Trying to think of which other. Sly. What about Sly? He's not a raccoon.
Well, he's not a
but-
raccoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say no.
Clank. He's calling him
Mm.
Clank.
All right, I'll. As far as when I started this stream, the front runners were Steve, Gordon, and Neil.
Neil. Like after Neil Young or something.
I don't remember why we chose Neil, but yes, maybe Steve.
What about
After, like, not really after anybody, but because our dog's name is Stella, so the concept of Stella and Steve is really funny to me. Gordon would be like Gordon Ramsay. Oh, we were thinking of Hank as well, after
Hank.
Tom Hanks.
Whoa.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Well, can I tell you
Henry
what?
just looked at me.
Parappa? Yeah, you can call him Parappa. I mean, does he rap?
Maybe. He
Oh,
screams a lot.
Leon.
Does that count?
That could
Leon,
happen.
That seems very Keith.
Leon would not be bad. I'd vote on Leon.
All right.
But yeah, like I wanted to, as we begin to wind down, the 2 hours flew by, people. I mean, this like it feels like we've been doing like the first hour or something. It's almost already been 2 hours. So first of all, thank you everybody so much. Really, really do appreciate it. Anybody lurking, don't be afraid to follow. We also do have the podcast with a new episode today where Ryan and I talk about local multiplayer games. And very soon we're going to be talking about an anime film. We record that episode tomorrow. A brand new one every Sunday. So
you guys watch it yet?
I am watching it tonight. Did you watch it already?
I watched it last night.
Trying to measure your face right now. No,
Yes.
okay.
You got to pay close attention. I'll put it that way. It's
No, that's why I wanted to do it tonight because I'm
it's
like,
a confusing movie.
Yeah,
I cannot-
I'm gonna check it out tonight. I have to get on. I need to find a place to watch it because it's a very, let's say, difficult to acquire movie.
Yeah, on Amazon Prime they don't have the dubbed version, which makes it a little difficult. I
What if
watched.
I
the
just
dubbed.
watched that, and would I get something out of it?
Yeah, you just gotta do a lot of reading.
I guess.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's all up to
that's-
what you decide, Keith. Really.
That's true. All right.
But like, just like the last thing I wanted to share here is just like people have an idea of what it's like today. Just because afterwards, like I do have a new video today where I compared the Wii U and the Switch eShops. Like even that video, like it may seem simple to record, but like I wanted to share like just two things of just like what went behind that, so people have an idea of like, you know, the goal is that it looks simple, right? It looks easy to understand, but there's a lot of prep around that. Like right now, this is, for example, I'm not going to say the script because it's not a script, but it's like the outline that I wrote to get to that video that you saw. Because I wanted to make sure Like, sometimes I have like specific paragraphs, but if you compare this to the final video, I didn't read any of this, but I wanted to make sure it's like, this is what you want to get across. Now, how we actually get there, that is entirely up to you. And to the point that in that video, I was mentioning to Ryan this morning, the on-camera part of that video, I recorded a month ago, like almost exactly a month ago. And the voiceover I recorded like on Monday, right? So it's even the challenge of, I got to match my tone from a month ago. I want to make sure I get that across. And like, let's see here if this may not work. See here. Just so you see like what that timeline looks like.
Oh, that Premiere timeline.
Yeah.
It stresses me out every time that I see that, just because you're so much better at Premiere than me.
Yeah, same. I'll be like, I feel like if I look at Juan's video and I tried to replicate it, it wouldn't look as complicated because I just don't know as much.
Yeah, it's like I made a transition work and I feel good about that. And then here he is with like 7 different timelines going with 3 different audio feeds, and it makes my head go boo.
And the thing that I've learned, like, it seems intimidating when you're done, because obviously when you see the final product, you're like, oh man, look at all those cuts and all that. Like that's, for example, an example of that. But to me, the hardest part is before you even get to it is why, length. Like my average length for a video is 15 to 20 minutes. Like this one was exactly 20. So it's like, okay, anything that doesn't add to the conversation you cut. Like all of this is voiceover, which is why it looks like it's just like one line. But that is like multiple takes, right? And then you see, like, for example, here's when the transition between the on-camera part to the other stuff goes out. And it makes you appreciate, like, for example, if somebody mentioned Scott the Woz, I'm assuming you guys know who Scott the Woz is as a channel.
Yep.
I know of him. I've never seen his stuff.
Like, he's got an awesome channel. But his channel is like, I can't imagine how much effort it takes, because he'll cover like 10 games in a video, but it's like microscopic coverage. But from a production standpoint, you still need to get all that stuff for like the 20 seconds you're going to show in a game, right? And when you include all of that, I get tired of looking at his videos, because I think about the production side. I'm like, dude, like,
that seems like a nightmare. Yeah. Like, even just think about the video version of our podcast, where with some games we'll have like an hour of footage just for like 15-20 minutes of actual like gameplay that overlays us talking.
Especially the old format where one of us would literally record like the whole playthrough. And I know Juan still does that for some of them, which is a ton of work, because I know for like the Silent Hill 2 video, I recorded all the footage, and then
I beat Pokemon Snap 3 times so I could get the footage for it.
Like, I went a little more hardcore into like, anytime we talked about something, I wanted to show the exact footage of that early on, and then we kind of got a little more realistic with that.
You realize that was not sustainable.
Yeah, it was not sustainable, because we were trying to I was trying to edit basically like a fully produced YouTube video into like a podcast format, which is just asking to want to like burn out real quick on that.
Yep.
But I do want to bring like kind of a mini topic. Like, I know we're kind of closing things out, but if you could basically have a huge following on one platform, let's just say throw your work life out of the mix, would you rather be like a big Twitch streamer or a big YouTube channel? Because if there's some pluses and negatives to both sides, because you can think, okay, starting out on Twitch is really freaking hard, but once you make it big, every time you're streaming, it's essentially you're making money. Whereas YouTube, yes, once you make it big, you can also get ad revenue, but all the hours you're putting into the video, you're not making money at that time, technically, though you have your backlog. So, well, if you had to choose one, like I said, throw your personal life out of, not consideration, just in a vacuum.
Well, before
I would choose
that,
neither.
Just in case, in Keith's case, it's probably neither. But Aguji or Gogui, if you got to head out, like, thank you so much. I see you waving, just in case. And Yannick, Scott's videos are indeed timeless. But yeah, Keith, like if you had to choose though, hypothetically, as Ryan mentioned, like which, like, is the more recorded format, the more live format?
If I had to choose, I would say the Twitch format. It goes back to why I like podcasting the most. And honestly, if I had to choose, like if I had just like the choice of media, I would choose to be a big time podcaster because that's my favorite platform. But just I know how I operate, and it just feels like Twitch would be something that I would enjoy more because when you jump on a live stream, like, yes, it takes a long time to get building, unless it takes a long time to get going. And it takes probably like, I know it's different, but you have to be on more than a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like when you're on camera, you have to be on. Your personality has to be turned up to a point where people would want to check you out. But the fact that you only get one take with that is what is more appealing to me. Because going back to when we were talking about producing content, the ability to be able to just scrutinize a video to death and redo things and recapture things and revoice things and rewrite things. Like, I would work on a video for 10 years straight and it would never come out. It would be like Dr. Dre's Detox album for me, just all the time. So I lean more towards the live, take a little longer to build, but hey, you can look back at it and say, like, yep, that was the best it could be because the way it is the way it is. Like, that's always been my favorite style.
I think it would be very similar for me because even as me that I have data on my videos, for example, you know, say a video has 100,000 views, but then you look at average view time and it is, if it's a 20-minute video, and this is something that happens to a lot of YouTube channels, the average view time for a video is like 30% of it. So when you factor in how much time you put in versus the fact that, imagine like you start watching a movie and before the plot twist shows up, people will walk out of the movie theater.
And then
What I
say
like
they
about
hate it.
Exactly. It's like you say you hate it. It's like nothing's actually happened yet unless you actually stayed around and watched it. I think what I love about live streaming is that it is what it is. Like if the power goes out, that's part of the live stream. You know, if your microphone stops working, it's part of the live stream. If you do good, it's part of it. If not, whereas with the YouTube video, like, you know, Ryan is mentioning the example of the stuff he's working on, like I can have an idea, but then as I work it, maybe it's like what you mentioned, Keith, like, oh no, maybe I go this angle, maybe I go that angle. And then when it comes out, I'm like, wait, is that even what I wanted initially? Like, did my vision change? Or like the biggest fear is like, does anybody give a damn about it? I think that I love both, but I think it is ultimately more satisfying. And I'm like Keith, I'm like you, like I like podcasts. So like my realistic answer would not even be these two options. It would be more so like, I guess using Twitch as a platform for podcasts, kind of like we're literally doing right now, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be.
This is what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are good answers. And I'm kind of like, for the question, why I asked it is because I'm kind of in that same middle ground of I did Twitch streaming for a couple months. And it is a big dedication. And I got super lucky in a lot of areas too, where, certain people hosted me that had really big followings and I got a bunch of followers that way. And, but yeah, and like, but you can get burnt out and you have to have the time, you have to put in the hours. But I do appreciate about YouTube, I have the same problem of, you want to kind of overwork it and overthink it because you want it to be perfect. But you have the benefit of being able to, kind of take your time and make it how you want it to be. And also you have the benefit of if those videos do get popular, people can continue to find it. Whereas if you have the greatest, lonely Twitch stream of 0 viewers, you have the greatest 0 viewer Twitch stream of all time, it'll never be seen. You just spent 8 hours doing nothing, but so it's a real tough beginning, but there's definitely like a balance. But I agree, podcasting probably is overall the happy medium for all of us, I think.
Yeah, and like even for me right now, I made the decision to have bi-weekly videos in my main channel because I was in the mindset that my channel, when it first started, it was indie games. I realized that indie games, even though that's a niche, they have the same pressure as like the game that comes out next week, which is like, if you're going to do that, you need to be on, as in like, you need to know like every game that's going to be coming out, and you need to cover that at the same time, because afterwards, 2 weeks after, who gives a damn, right? So when I started doing the Game Pass videos, that's when I actually encountered, wait, I'm onto something. What if like I cover like a broader sense, like something very specific, that something like the top 10 games in our wrestling channel probably still gets views every single day, even though we did that over 6 years ago, because that video is like one of our oldest videos in the channel. That's when I realized, hey, what about like the PS3? Something that people are in no way looking to compete over who's covering it, because it's already a thing that happened. So like, to me, I see that YouTube video as like my letter of presentation. It's like, hey, do you want to know like what I can do? Here's an example of that. I can put this together, but if you want to talk with me live, ultimately I see YouTube now as a gateway to streams or podcasts, because like a lot of YouTubers, this is like an interesting for me as a consumer. I developed, and I think this happened with the pandemic, where I will subscribe to a channel, find out that YouTuber has a podcast. I stopped watching the YouTube videos to listen to the podcast, because I like that conversation. I like the unedited, kind of messy, more imperfect, because if it's like a 10-minute video, you're seeing somebody like carefully craft that, right? And it's like perfect, and you kind of lose that essence. So I see one thing sort of being the gateway for another one, where before, to me, it was like, hey, you're seeing me on Twitch, like, hey, subscribe to the channel. I'm like, I like you here. You don't need to go anywhere.
Exactly.
It depends on the topic for me, because there are certain videos where I really like the very produced thing, where if you're watching like a retrospective on a game series, things like that. But then I do also appreciate, hey, here's people, and new expansions coming out for World of Warcraft or something, and here's 3 people who just are going to talk it out and talk about each bullet point of each new feature, and you want that more in a podcast format. So it definitely depends on the content, and I do like a mix of both. Not commuting to work has totally just annihilated my podcast listening.
Oh,
like,
I know, same. I'm so behind on everything.
Yeah, I just haven't listened to like any of the podcasts I used to listen to because of that.
For me, it's become sort of like while I'm cooking. Before, I would listen to a podcast one shot. Now it's like a project. Okay, I'm going to go cook for like 10 minutes, listen to 10 minutes. Like Solid Monster,
Yeah.
I'm still listening to like the Wednesday AEW episode on a Sunday. So it's become like my whole thing.
Yeah, he'll have like clips on YouTube. So if the clip is something that I'm like, okay, I guess I'll want to know what's going on here, I'll watch one of his clips.
Yeah, but the last comment here, Yannick writes, I think meme videos have the biggest watch time percentage. I think that's like the saddest part of the YouTube side, is that a lot of the best content is content that I think a lot of us could easily provide, right? But it is content that for me is not fulfilling. It's like these top 10 craziest, whatever the hells. Those videos do good. Like the numbers don't lie, right? Scott Steiner has talked about this. But I would hate myself, genuinely hate myself, if my success, for example, whatever that would mean, would be based on that type of video.
Yeah,
I agree.
So having said that, people, the 2 hours have flown by. I want to give a shout out and thank you to everybody in chat. Thank you to Kane, California for the cheers. Thank you to Wimaya and El Catador for the follows. Tokinet writes, I can listen to podcasts while I cut the grass. I think that's like, it's those activities that we do at home, right? Like that's when I record Happy to Fail, I record those episodes with the purpose of somebody's maybe taking a pause while I'm listening, right? So like even that is a strategy, but don't forget that you can listen to these 3 beautiful people on a cast of the past. A new 2-man episode today. We talk about retro/local multiplayer games. We have a library. We're at about 100 episodes, give or take. Like we started like numbering them in an odd way. That's like we're up to like number 79 or 80, but we forgot there's like
Really?
10
Hundreds.
12 other episodes
On
as well.
YouTube, I guess if you don't count the trailer or something or an announcements, I think we're like 98 episodes.
Exactly.
now.
We're around there.
Ooh-wee.
So we talk about everything from movies. We've talked about The Breakfast Club, Silent Hill 2, the game. We talked about the Silent Hill movie, See No Evil. We've ranked Pokemon games. I've facilitated discussion with these two guys ranking Star Wars films and me pretending like I knew what the hell I was talking about. Tokine writes, not in the house. I find it annoying to have earbuds in the house since I have two kids in the house asking for me for stuff. Yeah, no, that is very difficult. So as a closing thing, some Sunday streams, like even if it's not always like, YouTube, for example, I want to have some more discussion-based streams like this. So I would love to know those in chat. Like, would you be looking forward to checking out some more stuff like this? Like, I don't have a YouTube video of like, hey, let me talk about the latest gaming news. But sometimes there's like a specific gaming article, or like, there's articles that Ryan like for me and Keith to react to, and there's some stuff that I'm like, man, I don't know if I would like to do like this dedicated, like 10-minute video about this, but I would love like a 1-hour live stream conversation or stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
if you
I
guys
would
don't
like that.
do that as a video, I would definitely come on to discuss that one because I think it's a very good topic and it's very heated topic right now.
It is. So with Ryan and then Keith, any closing comments or plugs or
No,
I don't know what you're gonna have for dinner.
If you'd like to talk to me on the internet, please join our Discord at acastofthepast.com/Discord. I'd say that you could follow me on Twitter at Hamilton by Law, but I barely post there. So just join the Discord. Come say hi. We're quite active there, talking about our video game collections and what we eat and a variety of other topics. Whenever there's good wrestling, we always dogpile on that. So pop by, say hi, and again, Juan, thanks for having us on here. It's always fun to just jump on and talk with you guys. We don't do it enough. Because we have to make content when we do it.
Yeah, I'm like, wait for it. Yeah. Ryan, you?
It's on me. Oh, I thought I already went. Okay. Yeah. No, honestly, I have my Twitter, the Ryan McNulty, but like Keith, I haven't posted on it very recently. But if you at me, I will respond. But yeah, go to the Discord. That's where we're all talking. And Juan's, player Juan, like categories on there as well. And of course, if you like pugs on Instagram, pug.henry, go follow him. At pictures every day.
Yeah, easily the best part of this whole stream was Pug Henry. Everything else is kind of like we got to fill up time.
I brought a kitten, you guys.
But he doesn't even have a name. So now, by next time you show up here at some point, Keith, the damn kitten's got to have a name.
You're right. It was a failure on my part.
Does Chelsea, would she do the Instagram? You should have an Instagram. Come on.
You're right. I should. We'll work on that.
So that way Henry and the cat can have conversations. But
yeah.
Comments on great stream. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Ryan was a famous Pokemon streamer. He was. He was lovely and sexy. Justin writes, slide into his DMs. Oh, yeah. Good talk show. No, thank you, everybody, so much. Have a wonderful afternoon. You can enjoy my new video right afterwards. You can enjoy a new podcast episode right afterwards.
It's a packed Sunday.
There's a lot more of us. There's plenty of us. But take care. Have yourself an awesome evening, everybody.